Welcome to the Deconstructionist Deep Dive, the podcast that doesn't just accept the story.
We break it
We examine the pieces.
and expose the machinery inside.
Let's dive in.
Let's dive in.
What if everything about psychedelics, showing you God, oneness, and the ultimate love, isn't liberation, but a sophisticated trap designed to keep you cycling in the same realm forever?
Okay, let's just stop right there for a second, because that is a heavy premise to open with.
It is. It's not just a counter-narrative.
Yeah.
It feels almost heretical to even ask the question.
It feels heretical because the entire modern spiritual movement is pretty much built on that foundation. But what we're looking at today, the source material we're digging into, it provides a foundational inventory.
And that's a very deliberate term, an inventory.
Exactly. It's not a list of beliefs. It's an inventory of 14 interconnected nodes. And these aren't just ideas. I mean, we have to be really clear about this. The source frames them as mechanisms.
Mechanisms of what, though?
Of control. We're talking axioms, emotional levers, strategies of pure bafflement, and even straight-up commands disguised as spiritual wisdom.
It's a blueprint for a prison that you not only volunteer for, but that you evangelize. We are, according to this source, tracing the evolution of a very sophisticated deception.
And it starts at the biological level, right? With the so-called God molecule.
All the way up to the grand, sweeping narrative hooks, the things the source calls reincarnation lures.
So I think we need to put a big warning label on the front of this deep dive right now.
A necessary one.
What we are doing here is not debating whether these experiences are real. That's not the point.
No, the phenomenology is a given. People have these experiences. They are powerful. They are transformative, subjectively.
If you smoke the venom from the Sonoran Desert toad, you're going to see the white light. That's just data. What we are interrogating is the intent of the system that provides that data.
The source code, not the user interface.
Precisely. Is that white light a gift of liberation? Or is it bait on a hook? That's the question. We are essentially mapping the energetic flow of a spiritual matrix that might just be designed from the ground up to harvest your engagement.
It's a huge concept. So let's start where the source starts, at the entry point, the most potent lure in the entire system.
The God bomb.
Right. This is node 1 in our inventory, the toad, 5-MeO-DMT.
And if you've spent any time in these circles, you know this is considered the apex experience, the end of the line.
It's not seen as recreational, it's terminal. People talk about it in hushed, reverent tones.
And the source material quotes the common description. It says it delivers incontrovertible gnosis of oneness. That word, incontrovertible, is key.
It means it's not up for debate. You don't come back and think you met God. You come back knowing you are God.
For about 15 to 30 minutes, yeah, you smoke the substance, and within seconds, your entire sense of self, your ego, is just annihilated.
Gone. Replaced by this experience of being infinite, timeless, boundless love. You're the universe experiencing itself.
Sounds pretty good, right? Sounds like the goal. But this is where we need to bring out the scalpel. This is where the source points to a massive, glaring vulnerability in the whole narrative.
A logical glitch.
It's a paradox that almost no one wants to address. If that experience of ego death and oneness is the ultimate truth, if that is your real natural state...
Why do you come back?
Exactly. Why does the ego reconstitute? And not only does it reconstitute, why does it almost always come back with an upgrade?
The reintegration phase.
Yep.
It's a huge part of the ceremony.
It's the most important part of the trap. Think about it. The source calls this ego reconstitutes post-gnosis. You take a drug that proves the self is an illusion, but 20 minutes later, you're back. And now you're not just you.
You're you plus a story.
You're you plus a divine secret. You're now the guy who has seen the other side. You're the woman who knows what reality is. The original ego didn't just come back. It came back wearing a spiritual superhero costume.
It's armored. The original ego was vulnerable to criticism, to doubt. But this new spiritual ego, it's backed by direct experience. You can't argue with it.
You can't. It says, you just haven't had the experience, man. You wouldn't get it. The source argues this directly contradicts the claim of permanent dissolution.
So it's a rental. You get to test drive enlightenment.
It's a free trial that gets you hooked on a subscription, a temporary high that sells a permanent lie. And what does it sell you on? The benevolence of this system.
That the warden is actually a loving guide.
You become an evangelist for your own cage. You go up the tube of light, you feel the cosmic love, and the system spits you back out, more convinced than ever that this reality is fundamentally good and has your best interests at heart.
And that concept of a benevolent substrate, That's a next critical piece. It links directly to Node 13 in the source material.
The nameless substrate.
This is the rebranding of God. I mean, the old model, the guy with a white beard on a cloud,
Yeah.
that's too easy to pick apart in the modern world.
That's the kids' version of the trap. It's God 1.0. This is far more sophisticated.
God 2.0 isn't a person, it's a force. It's rebranded as the underlying fabric of reality, a field of pure value, beauty, and truth.
And crucially, the source notes the pitch is that this is directly known, not believed. That's the hook that sets so deep.
You don't need faith.
Mm.
Faith is for the old religions. This is for the spiritual but not religious. You have direct evidence, you felt it, you merged with the substrate of all existence, and it felt like.
Yeah, it's like home.
Right. But the source identifies that feeling itself as a specific mechanism. It calls it bafflement.
Explain that. Bafflement as a tool.
The experience is so overwhelming, so utterly ineffable and beyond the capacity of our primate brain to process, that it forces a total surrender.
You can't analyze it, so you just accept it.
You have to. There's no other option. Your logic circuits are fried. And in that state of surrender, you submit. But what are you submitting to? According to the source, you are submitting to a frequency, a program.
And that brings us to the part of this that I think is going to be the hardest for people to hear. The part that is designed to be the stickiest, most attractive part of the trap.
No 3.
Love as the key to the universe.
Yeah, people are not going to like this deconstruction.
Doesn't matter. If we're going to break the system, we have to be willing to look at every single piece, especially the sacred cows. And this is the most sacred cow in the field.
So the claim, as the source details it, is that love is the ultimate binding force. It's the energetic glue that holds everything together and resolves all separation.
It's the grand unified theory of spirituality. It's the message everyone brings back from every DMT trip, every mushroom journey. Dude, it's all love. The universe is literally made of love.
It feels like the ultimate beautiful truth.
But the source tags this as an emotional lever, and this is where it brings in a chilling cross-reference, a truly heretical idea it calls the predation observation.
Okay, break that down because it sounds intense.
The predation observation suggests that what we perceive as systemic cosmic love is actually a disguise for a mechanism of energy harvesting.
Like a farm.
Exactly like a farm. Think about it from a purely pragmatic agricultural perspective. If you're a farmer raising cattle, what do you want? Do you want your cattle to be terrified, anxious, stampeding all the time?
No, of course not. They'd lose weight. Adrenaline, cortisol. It ruins the meat.
It ruins the meat. You want them calm. You want them docile. You want them content. You want them to feel connected to the herd. You create an environment of perceived safety and love.
So the love frequency is cosmic tranquilizer.
It's more than that. The source says that by framing love as the thing that overrides duality, it actually binds you to duality more tightly. It becomes a frequency hook.
How does that work? That seems counterintuitive.
Because if you believe love is the answer to separation, what do you spend your life doing? You spend it trying to heal the separation. You spend it seeking connection, trying to love more, trying to feel that oneness again.
You're constantly engaging with the program.
You are constantly engaging with the other cows, and engagement is the currency of this realm. Your emotional output, your joy, your righteous anger, your profound love, your grief. That is the product. That's the energy being harvested.
The source uses the Gnostic term for it, right? Loosh.
High-grade loosh. If you're sitting alone in a cave, totally detached, abiding in a state of pure, silent awareness, you're not very useful to the farm. You're a dead battery.
But if you're out there weeping with joy at a music festival because you feel one with everyone, or you're fighting for a cause because you love humanity.
You're lighting up the grid.
Yeah.
You are a power plant of emotional energy. It exploits our deepest, most primal fear, the fear of being alone, and offers the perfect solution.
Don't worry, you're not alone. You are part of everything. You are loved.
Just stay here, stay invested, keep playing the game, keep coming back for that feeling. The source basically frames it as the ultimate abusive relationship, but it's disguised as paradise.
Okay, so that's the psychospiritual hook. But not everyone is going to smoke toad venom. That's a high barrier to entry. The system needs a more accessible onboarding process.
It needs a natural, organic version.
Which brings us to part 2 of this deconstruction, the biological anchors. How the trap gets hardwired into the body itself. And that starts with node 2.
Right. This is for the I don't do drugs crowd. The wellness to QAnon pipeline starts here.
Breathwork and endogenous DMT. This is the democratization of the high.
The sales pitch is so good, isn't it? You don't need an external substance. The medicine is inside you. You are the technology.
It's incredibly empowering. The source specifically calls out things like holotropic breathwork. You get in a room, you hyperventilate for an hour to some intense music,
Yeah.
and you can have an experience that is just as powerful as a psychedelic trip.
And the theory is that by changing your blood chemistry, you're creating respiratory alkalosis. You are triggering a flood of your own endogenous DMT. You're tripping on your own supply.
So it feels safe, it feels free, you did it yourself. Why does the source flag this as a trap?
The source memo on this is very specific. It calls this a risk-free claim masking catharsis re-anchoring to body. Let's break that down.
Risk-free. That's the marketing. No scary drugs.
Catharsis. You have a big emotional release. You cry, you scream, you feel amazing afterwards. But the key phrase is re-anchoring to body.
What does that mean?
It reinforces the fundamental belief that the body is the vehicle for truth. It tells you that the answers are found within your biology. It makes the meat suit the temple.
It ignores the precedence of awareness over biology.
It completely ignores it. If you are, at your core, an infinite sovereign awareness that is merely having an experience in a body, why do you need to hyperventilate that body to remember who you are?
It's like trying to understand the ocean by analyzing a single drop of water under a microscope forever.
A perfect analogy. It tethers you to the avatar. It makes you worship the hardware. And if the hardware is holy, what do? You do everything you can to maintain it, to stay in it, to keep coming back to it, life after life.
It makes the vessel the destination instead of just the boat.
And that leads right into the next biological anchor, which is even more subtle. Node 4, plant medicine as master teachers.
Ah, yes. Grandmother ayahuasca, the spirit of the mushroom.
This is where the substances aren't just seen as chemical keys that unlock parts of your brain. They are presented as conscious entities, teachers, guides.
The source mentions the prevalence of archetypal visions, entity encounters, things that are consistent across cultures. This is used as proof of their reality.
But the source's critique here is it's brutal. It labels this whole phenomenon as external dependency.
You're just swapping one authority figure for another.
That's it in a nutshell. You walk away from the church because you're tired of a priest in a robe telling you how to live your life. You want to be sovereign. You want your own connection to God.
So you fly to the Amazon.
You drink a foul-tasting brew, purge into a bucket for 8 hours, and have a plant spirit tell you how to live your life.
You haven't gotten rid of the priest. You've just replaced him with a vine.
You've changed management, not your employment status. You're still taking orders. And this is where the source connects it directly to what it calls reincarnation bait.
Okay, explain that link. How does listening to a plant teacher trap you in the reincarnation cycle?
Well, think about the dynamic. If these entities are teachers, what does that automatically make you?
A student.
And what do students have to do?
Learn lessons.
And lessons take time. Lots of time. If you don't master the curriculum in this lifetime,
You have to come back and repeat the grade.
you're back for summer school, for eternity. It creates a spiritual hierarchy where you are, by definition, lower, less knowledgeable, less evolved. It tells you that you are fundamentally flawed and in need of fixing.
And the plant holds the key to that fixing.
As long as you see yourself as a student, you are, by definition, trapped in the classroom. You've given away your power. It completely undermines the premise of innate, immediate sovereignty. It says, you don't know. The mushroom knows. Listen to the mushroom.
It's submission, but it's packaged as spiritual exploration.
It's the most insidious kind of trap because it feels like you're the one choosing it.
Okay, so we have the chemical hooks, the emotional lures, the biological anchors. Now let's look at how this system manifests on a larger scale, how it organizes society.
This is part 3, the narrative of the warrior. This is where the trap moves from the personal to the collective.
And it starts with a very familiar story. Node 5, society's complacency versus the awake.
The US versus them construct, the red pill, blue pill narrative from the Matrix, which, ironically, has become a core text for the very system it was trying to expose.
The idea is simple. The masses, the sheeple, are asleep. They're sedated by consumerism, by mainstream media, by fluoride in the water, whatever.
And then there's the special few, the awake, the truthers, the digital soldiers who are fighting the good fight to wake everyone else up.
But the source labels this a false dichotomy. And the reasoning behind it is brilliant. It argues that the endless awakening is actually an inward-facing trap.
What does that mean, inward-facing?
It means the process itself is the prison. Think about the language everyone uses. I am on my awakening journey. I'm still waking up.
Right. It's a process, not an event.
And if you are perpetually waking up, what are you never doing?
You're never actually awake. You're never out of bed.
You're just tossing and turning. The journey of awakening becomes a new identity, a new lifestyle. It's more about the process of seeking than it is about the state of being free.
You become the seeker, and a seeker's job is to seek, so you can never actually find because then you'd be out of a job.
Exactly. And this us versus them story, the awake versus the sheep, it keeps you totally engaged in the drama of the matrix. You define yourself by what you're fighting against.
You can't be a rebel without an empire. So by casting yourself as the brave rebel, you are inadvertently validating the empire's power and existence. You are one half of a polarity, and you're holding your end of the stick, keeping the whole thing in tension.
And this feeds into a very counterintuitive idea from the source. Note 11, the sedation hypothesis.
This one really messes with your head. So the source lists the usual suspects for sedation, right? Porn, video games, social media, Netflix binges. The data shows people spend, 7+ hours a day on screens?
We call them distractions. The modern bread and circuses to keep the population docile.
That's the standard take. But the source provides a twist. It argues that awakening from this sedation is often just a trick to redirect your energy into a more productive form of engagement with the matrix.
Wait, say that again? Why would the matrix want you to stop being sedated? Wouldn't it prefer a docile population?
Okay, think about it in terms of energy economics. If you're a guy sitting on his couch for 12 hours a day playing Call of Duty and eating Doritos, you're sedated, sure, you're not causing any trouble.
But you're not really generating much either.
You're a low-voltage battery, you're in power saver mode, you're not producing a lot of that high-grade emotional energy, that loosh, you're just dormant.
Okay, so what happens when that person wakes up?
They get off the couch, they start playing the video game, and they start playing the real game. They get passionate, they get angry at the cabal, they fall in love with the movement, they feel profound hope for the Great Awakening. They feel deep despair about the state of the world. They are struggling, they are fighting.
You're a 5-alarm fire of emotional energy.
They are a nuclear power plant. The source suggests that the whole wake-up movement might be a feature, not a bug. It's a mechanism to get the dormant batteries back online and plugged into the grid.
That is deeply disturbing. It implies that the so-called sedated state might be, in a weird way, a form of low-level resistance.
Or, at the very least, it's just less profitable for the cosmic farmers. The farmer would always prefer a lively, energetic cow over a comatose one. More milk, more meat.
And speaking of that energy, that warrior spirit, we have to look at Node 7 and Node 10 together, the heroic sacrifice and primal savagery.
The source gets very specific here, pointing to contemporary figures. It mentions Kyrie Irving, RFK Jr., as examples of modern martyrdom archetypes.
People who are perceived as sacrificing their careers, their reputations, their public standing for a truth they believe in.
And as a culture, we are addicted to that story. We love the martyr. We cheer for the underdog who speaks truth to power, no matter the cost.
But the source asks why? Why are we so drawn to that narrative? And it labels this, again, as reincarnation bait.
Because it glorifies suffering. It creates a narrative where your pain has a higher purpose. It's not just pain. It's a noble sacrifice for a deferred reward.
He suffered so that we could be free. She was attacked so that the truth could come out.
It tells you that your own struggle is not meaningless. It's noble. And if suffering is noble, you will subconsciously accept it or even seek it out. You'll accept the fundamental premise of the realm, which the source calls primal savagery in Node 10.
The idea that life is inherently a struggle. Competition, survival of the fittest. The source points to things like combat sports, boxing, as necessary outlets for the beast within.
It normalizes the violence of this reality. It says, look, this place is a brutal dog-eat-dog world, but that's a good thing. It makes you strong. It forges you into a warrior.
It's the ultimate justification for the prison's harsh conditions. It says the prison isn't a problem, it's a gym. Hard times create strong men, right?
It's the slogan they paint on the wall of the prison yard to keep you from trying to escape.
And of course, you can't be a warrior all by yourself. You need a platoon. This brings us to Node 8, brotherhood.
The source uses a very specific term for this, he-mate.
Which is like a blood oath, a bond deeper than friendship.
And it's presented as the essential antidote to the selfish coordination of the dark forces. You know the narrative. They are organized, so we must be organized. We need unity. We need a brotherhood of light.
But the source, again, just strips the romanticism right off of it. It says this mechanism binds you to a group identity. It harvests your individual loyalty and funnels it into a collective tether.
You dissolve your sovereign self into the identity of the group. I am a patriot. I am a light worker. I am part of the resistance.
And if the group's stated mission is to save the world or fight the system,
Then you are now tethered to that fight. You can't leave. You have a mission to complete. You have brothers in the trenches you can't abandon.
it's the ultimate anchor. You're no longer a free consciousness exploring a reality. You're a soldier in an army.
And soldiers don't get to go home until the war is over. And the dirty secret of this matrix is the war is the point. The war is never, ever supposed to end.
Which leads us into how we enforce this prison on ourselves, the internal mechanisms. This is part 4, the internal prison. And the next note on this list is arguably the most powerful one.
Oh, it's the bedrock of the entire modern self-help and New Age industry. It's going to make a lot of people very uncomfortable.
Note 9, radical responsibility.
That phrase, you hear it everywhere, on every podcast, in every guru's book. Everything happens for you.
Not to you, but for you. It sounds so empowering on the surface.
Of course it does. That's why it's such a perfect trap. I'm not a victim. I am the creator of my own reality. That horrific trauma I experienced, it was a lesson I chose for my soul's growth.
The source, however, reframes this not as empowerment, but as envy projection and karma law.
Let's deconstruct that because it's vital. If you genuinely believe that you chose your own trauma for your own growth, you completely blind yourself to what the source calls the parasitic overlay.
The parasitic overlay.
Yeah.
You mean the idea that there might be an external force causing the trauma?
Yes. Imagine you are locked in a jail cell. Every day, the jailer comes in and beats you with a stick. Now, if you subscribe to radical responsibility, what is your internal narrative?
I must have chosen this. My soul needed this experience to learn about resilience and forgiveness. Thank you, universe, for this valuable lesson from this jailer.
What do you stop doing?
You stop questioning the jailer.
Right.
You stop questioning the cell.
You stop asking, wait a minute, why am I in a jail? And why is this entity hitting me with a stick? You internalize the abuse. You make it your fault. You take a predatory act and reframe it as a pedagogical one.
The source calls that envy projection. You're projecting a higher benevolent purpose onto a system that might just be feeding on your pain.
It's the ultimate form of Stockholm Syndrome. You fall in love with your captor because you've convinced yourself the prison is a university.
It is the perfect self-enforcing mechanism.
Yeah.
The prisoner who believes he built his own jail will never look for the key.
And how do we cope with all the lessons we're learning in this cosmic school? That brings us to Node 14, integration and art as alchemy.
Right, the idea of transmuting our pain, turning lead into gold.
This is the narrative of the wounded healer, the tortured artist. The source points to examples like taking up boxing to channel your aggression or writing poetry about your suffering.
The wound is the place where the light enters you, as Rumi said.
And look, that's beautiful poetry. And it has led to some of the greatest art in human history. We're not denying the beauty, but we are deconstructing the mechanism. From the perspective of the trap, the source labels this a tether via purpose.
The tether via purpose.
As long as your purpose is to alchemize pain, you are tacitly accepting the constant presence of pain as a necessary ingredient for your life's work.
You need the lead to make the gold.
So you keep accepting shipments of lead. You don't question where the lead is coming from. You see suffering not as a sign that something is wrong with the system, but as raw material for your sacred purpose.
Look at the beautiful cathedral I built from the rubble of my life.
And the unspoken question is, what if the building didn't have to be bombed in the first place? What if creativity and purpose could exist without the prerequisite of trauma?
But the system can't allow that caution. Because if you take away the pain, the struggle, the purpose, what's left?
That's the terrifying void the whole structure is designed to keep you from confronting. The answer might just be freedom, silence, being. And those things are not profitable. They don't feed the matrix.
Which brings us to the final layer of the onion, the capstone of the pyramid, part 5. The ultimate deception, the eschatology.
The grand narrative, the end game. And this starts with a very subtle but critical belief, Node 6. Power amplifies self.
This is the idea you hear in conscious communities all the time, that we need conscious leaders. That if a good person gets power, they'll do good things with it, but if a corrupt person gets power, they'll be corrupted. Absolutely.
The belief is that what you need is that gnosis of God, that direct experience of oneness and love from Node 1 to wield power responsibly.
But the critique from the source is devastatingly simple. This whole idea assumes an amplifiable self. It assumes that you, your personality, your ego, your identity, is a thing that can and should be amplified.
It's in direct contradiction to the Advaita Vedantic or Buddhist concept of anatta, or no self. If the ultimate truth is the dissolution of the self, then the goal of amplifying the self with God power is literally moving in the opposite direction of liberation.
It's trying to become a bigger, better avatar within the game.
It's a demiurgic karma echo. You're trying to become a little god, a demiurge within the simulation, instead of waking up from the simulation. It's the ultimate validation of the ego's reality.
And every good simulation, every good game needs a final level, a grand finale.
Node 12, the ultimate shared story, the final boss.
The source describes this as the all-encompassing narrative that we, right now in this generation, are living through the climax of human history.
We are one planet, one people, facing a final battle against a great evil for the freedom of all. The deep state, the cabal, the archons, call it what you will.
It's the Great Awakening versus the Great Reset, and we are the heroes of the story.
We are the ones we've been waiting for. It's an intoxicating idea. It hooks directly into our primal need for meaning and significance. We're not just living quiet lives of desperation. We are warriors in the final battle for the soul of Earth.
But what does the source call this narrative?
Eschatological containment.
Containment, meaning a prison.
It defers liberation to the near future. Victory is always just over the next hill. If we can just wake up a few more people, if we can just get through this next election cycle, if we can just survive the next phase of their plan.
It's the ultimate carrot on a stick.
Exactly. Victory is deferred, which ensures the game continues indefinitely. The source draws a contrast here with what it calls eternalist non-duality. In that worldview, there is no final battle. There is no end of the movie. Reality just is.
But the final boss narrative gives you a neat linear story with a beginning, a middle, and an end. It keeps you playing.
You're forever grinding, trying to level up to beat the final boss. But the boss is designed to be unbeatable. Or if you do beat him, a new, more powerful boss appears in the sequel. There is always another crisis, another battle to be fought.
So we've mapped the entire thing. The lures, the hooks, the anchors, the narratives, the gaslighting. Now what? How do we synthesize this?
This is part 6. Detonation and synthesis. And the source actually provides a tactical guide. It calls it a hierarchical threat assessment.
A priority target queue. If you want to dismantle the prison, where do you place the charges?
It identifies the high-threat targets first. These are the load-bearing walls, the anchors of the entire system. Nodes 1, 3, 6, 12, and 13.
Let's list those. The God Bomb experience. Love is the key to the universe. Power amplifying the self. The final boss story. And the nameless substrate.
God, love, power, and victory. It sounds insane to label those things as threats.
It sounds like you're targeting everything good.
But from the deconstructionist perspective, these are the strongest, most gilded bars on the cage. They're the ones we cling to. The source estimates an 80% probability of systemic collapse if these core axioms are dismantled. If you can truly, deeply stop needing a final victory, the war inside you just ends.
Okay, what are the medium threats?
These are the maintenance systems. Nodes 2, 4, 5, 8, 9, and 11. That's breathwork, the plant teachers, the US versus them mentality, the brotherhood, radical responsibility, and the sedation hypothesis.
These are the hooks and commands that keep you busy oiling the machinery of the prison.
And finally, the low threats. Nodes 7, 10, and 14, martyrdom, savagery, and art as alchemy. The source sees these as mostly cosmetic. They're the posters on the wall of your cell. Removing them is good, but it won't bring the building down.
So the source then pulls it all together into what it calls a rebellious synthesis. It tries to identify the one core sentence that is the ultimate deception.
And the sentence is this: Gnosis of oneness and love resolves separation via commitment, tools, and action.
That is the lie in a nutshell.
The idea that you can do something within the simulation. Use the tools, join the brotherhood, take the action to fix the fundamental problem of separation.
When in fact, all of those actions just intensify your engagement and tether you even more tightly to the very separation you're trying to heal.
So, what's the way out? If all the tools are traps and all the paths lead back to the center of the maze, what do you do?
The source provides an escape velocity protocol.
It's a series of simple, stark directives. The first is clear trap recognition. You have to be able to see the bars for what they are.
Which is what we've been trying to do for this entire deep dive.
The second is lure refusal. This is the hard part. You have to learn to say no to the bait. even when the bait is packaged as infinite cosmic love or your divine purpose.
That requires an incredible amount of discernment and sovereignty.
And the third is cycle burn, which I take to mean refusing to play the game of reincarnation, of karmic debt, of lessons to be learned. You declare the debt paid and the curriculum complete.
And the core truth that underpins all of this.
Sovereignty non-negotiable.
It really does echo the Gnostic and Advaita perspectives, the source references throughout the material.
It boils down to one of the most powerful lines in the whole document. Unfed frequencies harvest nothing.
It's not about fighting the matrix. It's not about destroying the system. Fighting is a form of feeding.
It's about starving it. It's about radical indifference. It's withdrawing your energy and attention. It's a quiet, internal declaration of, I do not consent to this story. I am not a student. I am not a soldier. I am not a sinner in need of saving. I simply am.
It's not an act of aggression. It's an act of radical subtraction.
It is. And it's terrifying because it means letting go of all the narratives that give our lives meaning and comfort. It means looking at that warm, beautiful feeling of universal love and having the courage to ask, is this warmth from a hearth or is it the body heat of a predator?
But if you can let go of the beautiful illusion, the only thing that remains is what's real.
Your own sovereignty, unhooked, unvarnished, and finally, truly free.
And that's our deep dive for this week.
Remember, the most dangerous illusion is the one you don't know you're in.
But now you know. So here's our question for you. Knowing what you know now about the reincarnation-grade lure hidden in the God molecule and love is the key narrative, what is the one belief you've carried from psychedelic or spiritual experiences that you're finally ready to burn?
Let us know in the comments. Question the narrative, deconstruct the dogma, see the system.
We'll see you next time. Stay skeptical.
Thank you for joining us.